Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Ian and I'm from Bars and Bells, and tonight looking forward to celebrating and sharing discussions integrating mental health and movement with you. But enough about me, let's talk about this person to my right.
My name's Ian.
My
my name's not Ian. I'm Lauren, and I'm stealing the mic from Ian from Bars and Bells. And we're here with Stacey, a registered social worker, who's going to discuss our book. Well, not our book, but the book.
This book.
Burnout.
Yeah, so I'm Stacey Ivits. I'm a registered social worker here in Guelph. And I met Ian and Lauren, and we started talking about how our work was similar and kind of some of the differences. And that we both really were kind of passionate about integrating and talking more about mental health and movement and supporting our communities and working together.
Mm-hmm.
So
here we are.
Here.
1 year post-pandemic.
Yes.
We're feeling
burnt out.
Very true.
One of the attributes that a lot of people comment about us in our professional life in the studio, as well as our presence online, is how positive we are. And that is a sincere place to be, but it isn't without its challenges that this pandemic has brought upon us. And just bringing that realization and emphasizing that movement and mental health are hand in hand. And it's just our pursuit here to redefine the workout and place some stress in our life in the appropriate ways and learn how to deal and get better with the movement.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say break the cycle or complete the cycle.
Complete the cycle.
Complete the cycle.
So I was reading this book probably a year ago, and then I turned back to it this fall after the authors were speaking with Brene Brown on her podcast. And I audiobooked it this next time around, and it was so relevant to what I was dealing with as a mom and an entrepreneur, and what I was hearing my friends talk about, what I was hearing my clients talk about, and how we can use movement and other strategies to kind of go with the flow of our bodies, dealing with different emotions and stress, to kind of ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you first started talking about it, what I thought was interesting was it wasn't breaking the cycle, but completing the cycle.
Okay.
And I thought that was a very different approach, that a cycle needs to be completed in order to move on to a new one, continue, whatever may be.
Yeah, and so that the body works in cycles. I really liked a lot of the science they brought into what they were writing about, and how it's a physiological response, that stress isn't just like an emotional experience. Our whole bodies experience stress. And in fact, when we're measuring stress in psychological studies, they're taking heart rate, they're taking perspiration, they're looking at these physiological responses. And so it makes a lot of sense to approach it from a physiological place and work with it.
In one of our initial conversations with Stacey, I remember Stacey saying that when you feel a certain way, those hormones are already going through your body. You're already there, and then it might require something in addition to, again, reset or kind of complete that cycle. And how a lot of times we work out for certain reasons, whether it's to get fit or to escape your mind or to have fun with friends. And again, just being able to address the why that we're doing that, it might come down to those hormonal or emotional reactions versus the lethargy, I don't want to go to the gym. There might be something a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the talk this past year has been about breath and lungs and breathing. And so one of the things we wanted to start out with tonight, if that's okay, is to do a quick cycle of breathing. Sound simple?
Breathing.
We can breathe.
Let's breathe in and out.
Would you like to lead the breathing?
Sure.
Breathe away.
Breathe away. In our own exercise practice, there are many different breathing techniques that we may use. One's for those high tension moments where we need to brace our core for strength, but then others where we're just looking for room and bringing awareness to where that breath is within our body. So for this, I'll sit on the edge of my chair, and you can stand or sit, whatever you prefer. Place one hand on the chest and then one hand on the belly. For our breathing drills, we like to breathe in and out of the nose, but in any way that's good for you, check it out tonight. With the hand on the belly, take a 4-second breath in, pushing the belly into the hand or feeling that expansion down low. 4 seconds in and also 4 seconds out. Let's repeat that one more time. A 4-second belly breath in, looking for room, filling up the belly, and addressing where that movement or where that air is, followed by an exhale. Now repeat the same task in the chest. Take a breath in and exhale. Repeat that one last time, filling up the rib spaces with the breath in and then exhale. Relax, shake it out for a second. And where did you feel that breath went tonight? I felt nice, spacious down low here, but when I started breathing into my rib cage here, I felt all that tension shrug up into my ears. What about you?
Also into my upper chest, but I like to really fill that belly and expand all the way around. So that's what I was focused on that inhale.
Nice.
There.
I was feeling the breath especially when we were breathing into the chest, I could feel my shoulders and myself kind of sit back and just kind of relax a bit. I carry a lot of my tension, my stress in my back and my shoulders. And so that was really a relief to kind of let it go.
Great. We'll just kind of add on to that just a little bit here. Return one hand to the chest and one hand to the belly. We're going to add some holds into this breathing technique. Take a 4-second belly breath in, filling nice and full. And then hold for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds, pulling that belly button into the spine. And if allowed, hold empty for 4 seconds. Repeat one more time into the belly, 4 seconds in. Hold full for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds. Hold empty, also for 4. One more cycle into the chest. Chest breath in. Hold full for 4. Exhale slowly for 4 through the nose. Hold empty for 4 seconds. Repeat one more time, breathing into the chest. Hold full for 4. Slow exhale. And hold empty for 4. Resume breathing in the nose and out. Working on those breathing drills brings that awareness into where we're breathing. Are they the shallow breaths that tend to tighten up those upper traps when you're maybe on your run or even just working at your workstation? Or filling up nice and full, giving support to the core? That's what I felt. What did you feel?
I was feeling a lot of that as well. Like maybe I don't know the muscle names, but I was feeling it through my body, and it does help to kind of relax my body. But I also know my brain was thinking about some things about how this tags in with what they talk about in the book with box breathing, which is one of the exercises I often work with folks on that can bring our parasympathetic nervous system kind of back online and really be grounding and help with all of that kind of stress or tension or, to work through the stress cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, we like that breathing technique because it just reinforces that we are fine without taking a breath in for 4 seconds, to kind of learn how to identify that stress. I'm okay, I'm still here. Take that 4 second in, just to be in control of that breath. So when you are exercising or working out, you're more in tune with what's going on and not more vulnerable to just that increased heart rate and not being able to address how to implement some strategies to bring it down.
So it's about adapting as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My favorite time to practice my breathing is as I'm trying to go to sleep at night. Trying to slow my breath down, and that's what I'm trying to focus on, is only my breathing versus the billions of other thoughts going through, I'm sure, all of our minds.
Yeah. This kind of ties in with one of the quotes I really liked from the book, and I'm going to read it for a second and see if other folks kind of relate to it. But this idea that to be well is not to live in a state of perpetual safety and calm, but to move fluidly from a state of adversity, risk, adventure, or excitement back to safety and calm, and then out again. Stress is not bad for you. Being stuck is bad for you. And so that box breathing technique really shows how you can have that state of stress of not taking the breath and then return to calm.
Yeah, again, pre-pandemic, we've been very heavily influenced by European training techniques. And in our training overseas, it's often, let's start our practice with the breathing. And that's something that we adopted, again, as a reaction to the pandemic, because we started to see on our the stresses on our clients and just those anxious feelings that they would share with us, and how, again, just calming your breath and working on those slow exhales can really help mitigate those feelings. And as we said, complete that cycle, address the happy times, the anxious times, the high stress times, and return to the calm. And then it might start over again, and that's what it's for. Yeah. That's okay. That helps us grow.
I also really like that quote because it teaches you that it is okay to feel that stress. And sometimes I think we think that people have it all under control, and that in fact we probably all don't. But maybe speaking personally.
Yeah, personally.
But that it is okay, and that it is a full cycle, and you are allowed to go through it, but you're also allowed to come out of it, and being allowed to come out of that stress and be stronger, or not, but find a new place, to learn and go from.
Yeah, and this idea like that we have to keep growing or changing or getting stronger, where strong is enough, being enough, and that kind of state of breath and finding our bodies and being with our emotions, whatever they happen to be, is a place of comfort to be with, right? Does that make sense? Yeah.
It is also interesting in this environment because sometimes you'll do a stretch or you'll do a move, and people's reaction, some emotion is emitted or released that you maybe don't expect, and that was kind of buried somewhere for whatever reason. And so it is interesting to see how movement can bring out those stressors, hopefully release them, but maybe also identify where that stress is.
Right.
And where it is manifesting in your body.
Right. And that's something kind of work with, in talk therapy as well. It's like sometimes there's an event that happens in your day-to-day life. And it brings up a reaction that's bigger than you thought it would be. And it's because it's kind of tied in with something that you weren't expecting. But just kind of being with it, kind of grounding back into your body and allowing it can be what gets you through it.
Strong is definitely a word that shows up in our studio space here and in conversations with our colleagues in strength and training circles. And what we like to advocate for is we are already strong, and strong is enough. We don't need to be stronger. You're already strong. And in our capacity of the exercise and the working out, we just might be able to add some strength technique to add to that. But make no doubt about it, we advocate that we are already strong. We'll be just doing something different to bring out a new challenge or a new strategy to deal with those stresses. But definitely you arrive strong, and we use our strength technique. And that's a really interesting distinction in how we approach our fitness as well.
Yeah, I really liked that when I met both of you and working with you in the studio, that we can bring that together, that philosophy. I think fits for us. And so when we're looking at the book, so we work together here in the same kind of building and space, so that's how we know each other. But we are leaving space because our bubbles aren't mixed. So I just wanted to address that in case there's any concerns in that regard. And we were kind of I shared this book with you, and you guys started reading it too.
Yes.
So I was just kind of wondering, is there any kind of stressors that come up? Because we're kind of trying to make this a book club. At a book club, you'd have 8 or 10 people around a table.
And on that note, there's a chat feature. Please feel free to ask any questions or comments throughout the evening, and we will try to address those.
Ones that either tie into what we're talking about right now, or an observation you've had from reading the book, or if you're curious about something, just drop us a note, and we'll try to get to it.
Yeah, so I think the obvious stress that we've gone through as small business owners and a married couple within the same business has definitely been the pandemic-related challenges. If we go back a year ago, we wanted to maintain the relationships with our students and our clients because they matter so much to us from a financial perspective, cash flows, etc. Obviously, that's important, but they are super important to us in the relationships that we're able to build with them as well. And we didn't want the the break from life as it was before to interfere with these relationships that we've had with people. So an immediate stress for us was reacting to the event of the pandemic, and how can we get online and make our product available, accessible for our students, while promoting tremendous value for them to maintain the relationship with their own body, as well as their relationship with us in our studio here in Guelph. So those are the kind of big stress that's been in our life, has been this transition to the digital sphere, and how that manifests in my own body includes a mind that might not quiet so easily. I find guitar playing helps with that. We're looking forward to our gardening tasks. Stacey has some other interesting strategies that we'll like to share with you as well. Nice, you have a comment. I'm going to check that out, as maybe I pass the mic to Lauren, because I'm done speaking. I want to check out the comment
My
here.
stressors now.
Your stressors.
I'm feeling my ribs.
That's where you feel it. Okay.
Yes. Interesting. Well, there's been a couple stressors. Ian and I spent. Ian, your head's in the way of the camera.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was excited to see the comment.
He was so excited to see the comment. He put a silhouette in there. I think this has been a hard time on relationships, and Ian and I already spent a lot of time together.
Right.
We share a space here, but we still realized as much time as we had spent together, we actually spend more together now, because we weren't each interacting with our own clients for a couple hours in a row, going home separately, coming back separately.
Yeah.
Now everything was done together. And not to say it was a stressor, but it wasn't. It's a change. It's different. And identifying the time that we had together is great, but also acknowledging that you do need that quiet time to yourself. So I like to run a couple times a week, and that's my time away. You don't need to run. You can walk.
Yeah.
Find
joy in whatever you do. I like running. It actually is the only way that my mind does quiet.
Right.
Where I do come back from a run and Ian says, "What'd you think about?" I don't know.
That was your peaceful time.
That was my time.
Yeah.
So identifying that. Where do I feel it in my body? Ian likes to describe me as the Hulk when I get stressed. I get really high tension everywhere and just want to shake or like crush something. So everywhere.
The whole body.
The whole body.
Yeah.
I'll just take the mic back just to share the comment that the member said, Shauna, she has her name up there, so thank you very much, Shauna, for saying hello. And if I remember correctly, Shauna was just stating the difficulty in staying connected, either that's to your body or to your yoga practitioner or your trainer, but how that's essential for our overall health, and just that integration I think she's speaking to, of how the psychosocial emotional value of coming together to exercise or coming together to dance can have that nice emotional release. And as difficult as it might be, we do want to maintain that and advocate for that. So thank you for sharing with us.
Mm-hmm. That's really important, I think. And that was a piece you were just speaking to, Lauren, that, our relationship dynamics have changed. So we're relying more on very specific people who are in our bubble to provide more. Mm-hmm. And they might be coping with having less available to them as well. Mm-hmm. So I know I work with moms, and I am a mom, and I have friends who are moms. And, we were at one point being our kids' teachers. Mm-hmm. We're also partners often, and we have our own work or businesses or things, and just keeping our homes. We maybe didn't get the same support through other services that we normally would. Not able to see your therapist potentially, go to your yoga appointment or your physio. So losing out on a bunch of things and then having to kind of give still has been a struggle. That would be my stressor.
The give word was a big word for me in the first couple chapters of the book. Emily Nagoski talks about the human giving syndrome. And I see that in our own experience here, and we're very happy givers, and we really do like to provide services, and we've on the side catered, and we really love that service and that interaction with people, but that there is a limit to how much we can give before we're out of things that we can give to the most important people in our life, being yourself, and then your spouse or your partner or a very close friend. So that human giving kind of thing was really interesting to me in the book, on how it's great to give, but there's that limit to it, and maybe it isn't that great if you're stuck in that
if you're
cycle,
stuck,
right?
And it becomes a stress if you can only give and there's not like no one giving back, or everyone's giving and there's nowhere else to turn. And that's, I think, something that's changed during the pandemic, is these networks of how we would lean on each other. And that, that hasn't adapted. I've heard a lot about adapting lately, and how it's been a year, and so humans adapt, but this is very different circumstances.
And we were talking about adapting earlier, and it being okay if you haven't adapted yet to this point. And I think we also have to recognize that we don't know what's coming. We don't know what we're going to face next. And so trying to build up that resiliency, or just trying to find those small things to get through in order to try to adapt.
To cope, right? To manage. And I like that in the book. So if you haven't read the book yet, it's divided into 3 parts. It has a great introduction, and I love the first chapter. So if all you do is do those parts, I think it would provide something to each and every person out there. And it says that there's a difference between the stress cycle and the stressor, and you can address the stressor without completing the stress cycle. So you can change something so that things are more adaptive, or not finding the right word, but you change your circumstances to a degree, whatever you have control over, and you're able to do that. But if you don't come back and complete the actual stress cycle that your body's gone through, or you may still have this like residual buildup. And similarly, the problem, living problems
here, and they wanted the stress cycle again. It's great. Awesome. So kettlebell or a push-up, and if that sounds crazy, you can do it at your desk too. But using that full body tension is a super empowering superpower that we have here to do work and address that emotion. I love pressing kettlebells and doing that hard kind of work once a week, because it allows me to express that rambunctiousness or that aggression a little bit in there. And then after I'm done, it feels light. And that's not because I don't have the kettlebell in the hand, but it means like I was able to express that through movement. So with that in mind, I'll just fasten my lapel back on. And if you're seated here, how are your feet in the floor? Are they very loose on the floor, or could you imagine opening up your roots as your toes and gripping on hard? Then from there, could you place your hands on the tops of your knees, and at the same time try to pull up into the hands and press down and breathe over top of that for like 3 more seconds, and you might shake and then relax and then let things be a little bit on the loosey-goosey side. And just being able to address both parts of that. We need that stiffness for strength and to express that raw emotion, as well as that suppleness factor to, again, express those emotions and give your body that contrast that it's okay to tense, and it's also okay to be a little bit on the loose side. So if we spoke about the kettlebell, one of the interesting things that Lauren alluded to in her hulking moment was that fist. So if you just take one fist, slowly clench it. Clench on the fist. Then flex the bicep, or grab tension on the biceps, and then pull the elbows into the ribs and take a big breath in, and then brace on those abdominals for like 3 more seconds, and then relax, and then just shake it out. Addressing those high tension moments and providing yourself that opportunity at the end to shake it out and relax, again, reinforces how we can, again, deal with those emotions and feel that difference of that high stress environment and something that's a little bit more loosey-goosey.
Yeah. And just with that, just acknowledging that movement can be as simple as that. And that can make us feel better. It could be going for a walk. It could be trying to get out there for 1 minute and then continuing on after that, because typically it does feel good to move. But that it doesn't have to be something super intense, because what we're finding a lot with people right now is they don't need intense. There's too much intensity in our life right now, that actually the most simple and basic movements are providing people with the opportunity to release some of that stress and to attend and just get back into their body.
Yeah.
The high intensity, like lots of kettlebell swings or burpees and push-ups aren't doing it right now. There's a time and a place.
Right.
But building up to that too as well.
So attending. So that we kind of glossed over that word just now, but we spoke about it together at different points. The attending to the body and the emotion and the cognitive place and everything, right? So bringing awareness and attention to that present moment, and how that kind of infuses both of our practice. So for me, when I'm working with folks, and how mindfulness kind of comes into the different types of therapy I use. And then for physical fitness, mindfulness is probably present.
Yeah.
And that attention and that on purpose attention is really key.
So I can recall like times in my physical education, we'll call it, as a young trainer and then an emerging professional here, and we would have the music on and we would look at the TVs, look at sports, what's going on. And it's pretty commonplace for the cardio theaters at the gym to have TVs and music and lights. And that's great. And that will keep us entertained. And maybe we really like that part of the fitness. So please keep that up. But as Stacey said, it's bringing that awareness to the body and what's going on and how do you really feel today, rather than pushing through and being inspired by music and lights, which could be great. Be inspired by the feelings that you have in your own body and what you can do to complete the cycle or bring about change or just bring about awareness to something that you might not have had prior to your fitness or your exercise experience.
So kind of tuning into what your body's asking for. Like maybe it is sometimes that distraction and that like high intensity, like you were mentioning, you really like a good kettlebell workout once a week. And I like a good solid, like hard workout once or twice a week. For me, it might look different than you. I don't use kettlebells. But a big long hike with my dog. Yeah. I love those. And trudging through the snow this winter has been great. So that's what it looks like for me. But then there's the daily, like at least half an hour, just taking him out and around the neighborhood. I feel like I need it now, that kind of, and I'm just being aware and listening, sometimes listening to music, but sometimes just listening to my thoughts and kind of having that space. So really tuning in, I think each person kind of discovering that attention, that attending process.
And being okay if today is just not just, I say that word too much when I talk about simple movements. Like today could be about doing ankle circles and checking in with your wrists and head, neck. And that's okay. Checking in with your joint by joint body health versus crushing it into the ground and not being able to then tend to what you need to later, both mentally and physically. So trying to create movement that empowers us for the rest of the day and gives us energy versus taking.
Right, so that it's a nourishing movement.
Yes.
And that's something I find really helpful to kind of keep in mind for myself. And when I work with clients, kind of bringing that language into our work is what's nourishing for me today.
I like that word.
Yeah. So unfortunately, a comment has come across here. It just says we might have lost our connection. And that is very unfortunate, but the timer is still going. We're still here. We do apologize if no one's hearing this right now. But as important as it is to share these strategies with you, this is fulfilling a commitment to ourselves to do this tonight. So we're just going to keep on going. We have a couple more things. And if you are, again, lost in the Digispace, we'll be back next week. Try that reload. We do hope to reconnect next week with you.
You continue. I'm going to check one thing.
Okay.
So just that nourishing idea of like paying attention to what's happening and what you need in that moment, I think is what we were talking about. I don't know what you were able to catch me over there.
refresh. Yeah.
So you're just, and what feels right today.
Yeah. Like this might be enough.
Sometimes this is it. Yeah. Or stretching at your home office or taking that trip up and down the steps in your house so that you feel like you've at least moved a bit.
Yeah, we advocate for those little bits. Those little bits, what we might need might not be that much at all. It doesn't have to be as grand as our big squat plie. It just might need you to like wiggle in your chair a little bit and bring some awareness to stimulate that part of your body. So again, we all in fitness, again, we're pretty guilty of looking for those big strategies, those big movements that, are big, but more sustainable things are probably those smaller tidbits that you can do daily, bring awareness to that situation, and then grow.
I checked everything. It's all good.
Okay.
All
Good.
looks okay.
We'll check it out. Here we go.
Well, hopefully
yeah.
folks can tune in, and otherwise we plan to have it available on your page, right?
Exactly. So the YouTube playlist will be there, and there's 3 other episodes already scheduled. So we'll be here for the next 3 weeks as well, discussing those other strategies in the book.
Yeah, we're okay.
Yeah. So we have a couple more movements if we could. So I just addressed in my own experience that if I am feeling in that high stress environment, I tend to feel it in that rib cage as it tightens up, and then also into the head neck. So if you're interested in joining a couple strategies, just move your head neck. I'm going to stand for this one, I think, but seated could be nice and fun as well.
I'll do it seated.
Okay. Maybe then I'll just kneel in front so you can kind of see a side profile a little bit differently here. Oh, but I don't mean to block you.
I'll sit, you're kneeling, and
Okay.
you're standing. Yeah? So there's options.
Yeah. So we like a roller coaster. You know, haven't been on a roller coaster in an awfully long time, but doing a roller coaster or a wave through the head neck and then our rib cage might just be nice to bring some awareness to the text neck posture that gets a bad rap, and then those other spaces in between that allow you to complete a cycle or a wave through the head neck. So if we started tall with our chin tucked in, very slow chin tuck. Then from that position, face forward into that little bit of weird text neck position, and then nice and casual glance at the ceiling in extension at the neck. Then pull the crown of your head high as the chin goes low, and nice and slow again, we'll go chin tuck towards face forward to extension, and then back to looking straight ahead with the crown of the head tall. And then what you do one way, it's nice if we can provide those other directions in our body as well. So for that, we'll slowly start looking up to the ceiling. And then in that port de bras style, we'll kind of face forward and then chin tuck. And then nice and slow, low effort here as we bring the head neck up to the ceiling. And then that folding forward towards the text neck and then the flex neck. And then reset in the center. How'd that feel, right? Just bring some awareness to all those positions that life puts us in. Whether we're at the computer, this is bound to happen. I know Lauren calls me out for the slouch, and it's gonna happen. So how do we get into that position? And then how can we, with strength and awareness, come back out? Using that same roller coaster or wave analogy, just to do the same thing through the rib cage here. I tend to like to place a hand on my belly and the hand on the chest. From here, I call that first move a candy cane. We're gonna flex the rib cage over top of the hips. And then from here, push your sternum forward. Then doing a back bend through the rib cage, minimizing the lumbar or low back shape. From the extension pose, we can pull the rib cage back down, push the sternum forward, and then end up in the extension, and then reset in the middle. What we do one way, we'll try to do the other. And for the last movement here, we can lift the rib cage up, extending through the T-spine, so the rib cage and above. And then here, it's that candy cane again. As we go down, pull the rib cage down to hips as we get back to the extension shape. We're pushing the heart forward. Yeah, Stacey, nice. And then last one, that rib cage candy cane action of flexing through the ribs and then pulling the rib cage down as we lift the sternum up, feeling that core engage, and just again, creating those nice supple waves to bring some energy into the spine. So those are 2 strategies that I like to implement. If I start to feel that head and neck stress, we can get some of the nice lateral waves or those front waves going, and then that same movement through the rib cage just to free up those spaces.
Cool.
Already feels better.
Yeah.
Breathe
Sitting even for 45
It
minutes.
doesn't have to,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't have to feel better, but we do hope that it would or could, right?
Could, yeah.
Bring that awareness to it, and then we can try to again address that over time and just build your awareness to hit those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I looked a bit funny.
That's
doing it.
okay. Good for you for doing it.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Oh.
That's good.
So my anxiety might be up and my face might be a bit red and, there's a light shining at me.
Yeah.
That's all right.
And movement is that personal too. And that is that hard. And sometimes it is that, I don't want to call you embarrassed, but it is that challenging for people to move their body in a way they've never tried to.
Yeah, so we did not rehearse that, just so folks know.
Yeah.
So I was learning with all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting to see people learn or put themselves in that position of, ooh, I don't know how to do that.
And
Yeah.
not entirely knowing what's up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of also what we've kind of been drawing on a lot today is that movement from discomfort and back to safety, right? And in psychotherapy, we also use the term pendulation, so that to distress and going back in, and how there's flow. So not getting stuck in like, oh, I always am happy or I'm always depressed. Making space for at this moment, this is what I'm experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's difficult, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And making space to kind of move and flow.
Just pendulum and flowing is just really flowing, getting with me here.
Okay.
And that's kind of like our bars and our bells, is that we want to have that strength, but then we do want to have that kind of grace. Maybe not all the time. It's a process.
Yeah.
And I've come a long way in my grace. But being able to have both sides of movement, that it's not always, it can in fact be movement linked together and that pendulum feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be as beautiful as the professional ballerina doing it, but just that you're attempting to link movements and to find that pattern.
Yeah.
That pendulum.
That flow.
That flow.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think is great that we're doing this live, and some things are new for me and some things are new for them. And there's playfulness. And that's another part of, working with and through that stress cycle, unlocking it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is allowing for playfulness and laughter and affection and care, connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we always try to sign off with take care. And we've tried to think, like, what am I actually meaning about when I say take care? And it's just what you're alluding to there, just being here and addressing all those parts of our life that intersect to create this beautiful movement practice that we like to celebrate, but then can also link to the mental wellness and those other factors there.
Yeah.
I was going to say something again.
And that's what happens with live, is sometimes we forget exactly what we were going to do. And, it is.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that really drew me to the book, though, was that, and I'm sure there's lots of books out there that said it before this one, but this is one I've actually read versus textbooks, but just the link between the physical and the mental health and how important that is. And you need to do both.
And doing one, going for a walk is taking care of your mental health also. And sometimes going to therapy is looking after your physical health. Like to separate them out, silo them. We talk about this in when I've worked in hospitals, that there's physical health hospitals and there's mental health hospitals, and that they're separate, completely separate. But you can't have health without mental health. And we've been saying that for years. And I think it's becoming really clear in the last year for many of us that aren't always in that world, but it is true. And so finding ways to integrate it are important.
And that the physical aspect could just be taking time for yourself, right? Doesn't have to be intense, but just taking that time to separate yourself from what you need to separate. You remembered?
Yeah, it was just along the lines, I think of that, it was just so many times over this past year, we live very close to the studio and we be walking to work. And we might be dealing with some of the frustrations with a web application that's not working, or something more pertinent to the personal lives here. And we always ask ourselves, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? It's a lot of extra stress. It's a lot of these other things that were more or less in the negative category. But we always came back to it. We're doing it for us. We're doing it to provide that accountability to ourselves, that I like training and I know I don't feel like doing it now, but hey, after feels really good. It might not have been your heaviest, hardest, all those other adjectives we can throw in there, but you did it, right? And just that value of consistency over the intensity, and that we're doing it for us with the intention that it will make help to make us feel better as part of this holistic approach to our wellness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look at my notes for a second just to see if we've.
Check it out.
Yeah, we did. Tonight's just a little introduction on the book, and then next week we'll be getting into. That's your cue.
That's my cue.
Part two.
Well, more of the 7 strategies. So I've spoken to them a little bit. How like laughter can be really healing and help us unlock the stress cycle, and connecting with others and affection and what that actually means. So I'll kind of dive into that a bit more next week. And what is burnout? We didn't even talk about that. So that's the name of the book, and we haven't even talked about how they define burnout in the book. So we will come back to that for sure and talk about that next week. And these 7 strategies and how they work together, and how movement is kind of tied into all of them, and how we kind of work from that framework.
Mm-hmm. If in the meantime, before our next week's session, there's an opportunity to email us questions.
Absolutely.
That you would like addressed, or specific comments, barsandbells@gmail.com.
And Stacey at StaceyIvits.com.
There you go. So if there is questions that you had ahead of time that we want to talk about, but we have 3 more parts to go. Right?
Successive weeks.
In successive weeks.
I'm like,
yes.
right now?
No,
Oh, goodness.
no.
Okay.
We are breaking the book down into the 4 parts.
Yes. So next week is really like chapter 1, basically, overview and part 1. And then there's the other parts. So one is about kind of challenges that get in the way. So we all know movement is good and that we should take care of ourselves. So what kind of prevents us from doing that? So 2 weeks from now, we'll be speaking into that part of what gets in the way. And then our final week will be like the wrap up, and how we can create routines so that, we attend to ourselves consistently, and not just when everything
hits the
feels
fan.
awful. Yeah, everything hits the fan.
Yes. It's interesting that we could spend this much time and not even define burnout. Maybe it's because we feel it.
I think everyone kind of knows what it is, but yeah.
So it'll be exciting to get into that next week.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
And yeah, if you haven't picked up the book yet, it's available at your favorite local bookshop, something like the Bookshelf here in Guelph, and many other booksellers that are local to you.
So this gives you time to read. Yeah, including myself.
Yes.
The audiobook is read by the authors as well.
Oh, interesting.
And it may be available through your local library. There is an app for that. Yeah.
Yes. So I was going to reference the app, but no need there. Great. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Stacey.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I'm so glad we get to do this.
Yeah. We'll talk more about burnout, the cycle, the stress cycle.
Yeah, the secret to unlocking the stress cycle. And
and how we can incorporate movement and integrate it to improve both our mental and physical health.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Sounds great.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
And if you caught this on the replay, that's great. Just email us questions. We're happy to respond. And we'll connect next week.
Thank you for joining. Would you like to say your goodbye?
My goodbye would just go along those lines of take care, and we hope to see you soon, whether that's in studio, in a session, or back online on YouTube on Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. next week, the 24th of March. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Excellent. Then we'll end on that note. Thank you very much for your time. Stacey, thank you again for sharing sharing with us here tonight. And we do look forward next week. So take care. Have a great night. See you soon.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Now you're in the camera.
Oh, I think that's